Hi all, Mariah Jane Thies here of the Radiant Dancer and Radiant Dance Teacher. Well, here we go. I'm finally getting off my, well, no, I'm not going to say finally getting off my butt. I'm finally feeling ready to put myself out there and really share some of my ideas. I've been doing it anyway for a few years, but not my real honest stuff. Why? Well, if I'm honest, I was afraid of being judged. I never did, 32 fouettes on point as a soloist on stage. And so there's a part of me that always felt like, well, who the heck are you to go out there trying to change the dance world when you weren't like some superstar out there? You didn't live that part of it. Well, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I actually started by teaching music first. I was a piano player and clarinet player, and I started teaching music in my teens. And then dance. But actually, I even played school. I didn't play house. I played school with my best friend who actually became a school teacher and principal, and actually is now a counselor. So I was teacher in my blood. And it's taken me a while to really embrace that all the things I've been through in my life, which I will over time vulnerably share with you, all the things in my life that has meant that for all these decades, this has never been a job. I would say it was a career. But when I really look at it and what I'm finally at 56, finally there, able to say, it's a life purpose. That sounds heavy. It actually isn't. It's the piece that fell into place recently that has me going, yep, I'm doing it. And if people want to judge me, well, whatever. I'm going to be a duck and let it run off my back and go, okay, if I'm not for you, that's fine. But I'm ready to own that I got something pretty special to bring to the dance world. And it's not book learning. Yeah, I've done a ton of study, but I've also had a whole heck of a lot of life experiences that me just kind of smiling and doing all this, you probably wouldn't believe until I start to share. That means that this really is a life purpose, and I'm grateful for all the life things that have come before me being here that got me here. So in my first post being vulnerable about this, I'll just share one of them. And actually it's the biggest one. When I was 18 years old, still very much a daddy's girl with my father on what I would still argue it was a very deserved pedestal. He always saw the real me. My mother's love was a bit more conditional. If I was doing what she wanted, it was all good. I mean, I know she actually loved me, but I guess her approval was conditional. But my dad was always, let that be a learning experience, like if I did something that wasn't right or. So my dad was on a pedestal because I felt so seen and accepted by him. Well, at 18, he went to work one day and didn't come home. He was a flying fireman and his plane crashed and he did not survive. And in that moment, when I got the news, a thing I've relived thousands of times, I got a bit of a heart wall. But most importantly, because he was on a pedestal, I didn't get to complete the grief process. I could never be angry at him. I just loved him too much to be angry at him. It's taken a long time, and I'm actually surprised by my tears right now. I think mostly I'm just sad for knowing the irony that how much I loved him actually hurt me so much. Because what really happened was the grief got locked in my body. My nervous system got pretty dysregulated. And I've gone on such a journey of learning things about healing, getting out of the chronic stress and fight and flight. Again, I'll share more of that as we go, but the context that kind of became almost like the soup that I was swimming in was that my body was not willing to fully feel things and process things because it was just too painful. So I had to keep it away from me. I couldn't do it. And of course, as a dancer, trying to feel things, it was a bit confusing. So while I didn't do the 32 fouettes on point in a tutu with the spotlight, I know that many teachers out there, you're like me, we didn't do that. Maybe you're one of them listening to me going, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. Well, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I've studied so much about dance. My music background made a huge difference, of course. I've always been creative, so I've loved imagery. But I really dove into healing, and in particular, healing out of fight and flight, getting my brain integrated so that it wasn't in this chronic fight and flight response that was also limiting my skills, making everything in life harder. So that's the part that I go, everything that I've learned because I've lived it, okay, it's made me who I am today, and it's given me an amazing grounding for a life purpose. And considering my dad's favorite saying always was, let that be a learning experience. It didn't matter what it was. I mean, I always did well in school, so it wouldn't usually be about grades. It would be some other behavior thing. Let that be a learning experience. And he wouldn't get mad or punish me. It was just, let's unpack what we've learned from this. The irony is not lost on me that his biggest lesson to me was his death, the timing and the manner of it, how I felt it get into my body, and the decades it's taken through dance, through certain specific modalities of movement, to let that release. And what a glorious journey it's been. And I'm here to share, not how to get out of it, because I hope you don't have those traumas. I hope your students don't. But more importantly, just like how to use movement to not be in a stressed state. And my life purpose to me feels very much now like, especially all that's going on in the world, is that, I don't just want to help students to point their feet better. I want students to have life skills. Not life skills of motivation and concentration and focus. Beyond that, I want students to know about movement as being a prime way to be at their best. Not perform their best as in get their leg higher, but be at their best from the perspective of being in an integrated whole brain state where they're brilliant and they're calm and they're organized. They're not falling apart under stress and the pressures of life. And if I can help teachers, studio owners, then the teachers, and then the students, like nice little concentric rings of one person becomes 100 students, becomes their families and so on. And I do that dripping all over the world, lowering the stress, giving the skills to be in a good place. Because they're dancers and they're ready to embrace movement. And why not embrace it for having good learning and good performance? It's the perfect end. It feels so perfect. Now that I'm finally here, it feels so perfect. Everything that I've been doing and created for the last decade even has all been really the same thing. We are brilliant when our brains are integrated and we're able to be embodied and trust and honor the body. And because I shut out of the body, because of the depth of those emotions that were just too scary, I know what it's like to being kicked out of my body. There's also an injury I can tell you about that got me not trusting my body. That actually didn't happen in dance, just on the playground. Those two things combined have given me a real world, real life foundation of knowing what it's like to be disintegrated and disembodied. And I'm back, baby. And I know how to get your students back, you back, and how to make it so that students maybe never go there in the first place. And so I'm just going to invite you to start being on this journey with me as I more vulnerably share stuff. And learn with me ways that we can make a change in the world. Talk again soon.